Haven grew up cloistered among towering shelves of arcane books, where his father, a driven historian, chased spectral secrets of the past. The library, Jonah's refuge and realm of wonder, echoed with hushed echoes of bygone eras, while his father's focus remained on the intangible and the otherworldly, often leaving the boy to navigate the silence alone. Tragedy struck when Jonah was but 15. His father was found lifeless, an open tome on his desk, its pages an indecipherable palimpsest of dead languages. The official whisper was, heart failure. But Jonah knew the heart in question had been chasing phantoms that did not wish to be found. The young Haven was left an orphan, the shadow of his father's obsession stretching long across his own days. His inheritance was not wealth, but a question that gnawed at him. What had his father uncovered in the silent communion with the dead? In the years that followed his father's mysterious passing, the boy who had been raised in the cradle of ancient mysteries matured into a scholar with a purpose carved from loss. It was a decade of silent transformation, where the once vibrant walls of his childhood study grew somber with dust and memory. During this decade, Jonah wandered through various institutions of higher learning, his mind a sponge to every esoteric whisper, every occult fragment that he could lay his hands upon. But the echo of unanswered questions from his father's demise whispered louder than any lecture. His heart, once buoyed by the thrill of the unknown, now felt anchored by the need to unearth the truth. It was on the eve of the 10th year, as autumn cast its golden sorrow over the land, that Jonah found the frayed edge of a map in an overlooked folio, a map that beckoned to Ashcliffe, where time itself seemed to mourn. Compelled by a longing that was as much about understanding his father's end as it was about his own beginning, Jonah stepped out of the realm of academic shadows into the twilight of Ashcliffe, where the past lay waiting, shrouded in a mist that time itself seemed hesitant to touch. In the shadow of the forgotten hills lies the village of Ashcliffe, a place whispered about on winds that shiver through barren branches. Its tales are not told in the warmth of daylight, but in the silent watches of the night, when the veil between worlds grows thin, and the heart dares to listen to the chill that seeps through the cracks of the world. Jonah's arrival in Ashcliffe carried the weight of a legacy unfinished. The town, cloaked in superstition, was his inheritance's final secret, a chapter his father had never closed. The manor, with its malignant past, promised answers to questions that had haunted Jonah's every step since his father's mysterious demise. The villagers saw not a man, but the echo of a former obsession when they looked upon Jonah. In him they recognized the same haunted gaze that had once burned in the elder Haven's eyes. Yet Jonah was not his father, where the historian had tread in the arrogance of one who sought to own the past. Jonah walked with the caution of one who knew the past could never be possessed, only borrowed, and at great potential cost. As Jonah crossed the threshold of the manor, the air grew dense as if the very breath of the place was labored. The walls, stained with the patina of age, seemed to watch him with a curiosity born of isolation. Night came quickly, and with it, a silence so profound that Jonah could hear his own heartbeat sinking with a softer, irregular beat that seemed to emanate from the bowels of the house itself. In the depths of the manor, Jonah discovered a study, untouched by the ravages of time, and within it a tome that hummed with an eldritch energy. The pages told of the Ashcliffe lineage and a pact made with entities that hungered for the warmth of life, offering eternal life in return. The legend was true. The last of the Ashcliffes, consumed by the fear of death, had sought to outwit the Reaper. A ritual performed in the throes of desperation, with a heart unwilling to cease its beat, had birthed the revenant. The house began to groan, a lament that shook the foundations, and the whispers coalesced into a voice, raspy and wet, like earth on a coffin lid. Life for life. It breathed. Jonah's mind raced as the darkness gathered, formless yet suffocating. The revenant, a twisted echo of its former self, now fed on life to sustain the unlife granted by the accursed pact. It hungered, and Jonah's arrival had awoken its appetite. The house whispered in a chorus of the damned as Jonah's candle flickered like the dying heartbeat of someone long forgotten. With every step, the wooden floors groaned, as if pained by the presence of the living. He knew he was not alone. The darkness itself seemed to pulse with malevolence, a predator lurking just out of sight. As Jonah delved deeper into the heart of Ashcliffe Manor, the air grew thick, heavy with the scent of mildew and something far more sinister. The metallic tang of blood old enough to have turned to dust. It was as though the very walls bled shadows, and those shadows watched, waited. Then, in the peripheral twilight of his vision, a silhouette formed, a distortion in the darkness, a figure both human and not. It moved with a disjointed grace, a puppet animated by some otherworldly will. Jonah's breath caught in his throat, his scholar's curiosity now shackled by a primal fear. The revenant had been a mere concept, a subject of research until now. As it edged closer, its form became clearer. Tattered robes clung to its spectral frame, and where its eyes should have been, there was nothing but the depthless void of despair. Jonah's mind screamed to flee, but his body refused command. He was ensnared by the revenant's gaze, caught in the stillness for the strike. The whispers grew to a crescendo, a symphony of suffering and rage, a sound that seemed to claw at the very fabric of his soul. And then it stopped. The silence was deafening. Jonah could feel the presence mere inches from his face, its breath a frigid caress against his skin. It was the moment before oblivion, the precipice upon which life and death danced in macabre harmony. With an effort that seemed to drain the last vestiges of his strength, Jonah reached into the folds of his coat, fingers wrapping around the ancient tome his father had bequeathed him. The revenant recoiled as if the book seared its essence. The whispers returned, now a plea, a bargaining, 1,000 voices begging for release. With trembling hands, Jonah tore a page from the book, and a scream that held the agony of centuries tore through the manor. The revenant's form wavered, caught in the storm of ancient magics released from the parchment. Jonah, seizing the moment, set the page ablaze with the candle's flame. The fire consumed the words, and with it the revenant began to unravel, a tapestry of torment coming undone. As the last ember died, so did the revenant's grasp on the mortal coil. Ashcliffe Manor, freed from the chains of its grim legacy, sighed a breath of release, and the scholar found his escape through halls that no longer echoed with desperation. Dawn painted the village of Ashcliffe in hues of forgiveness, the horror of the night seeming almost a dream. Yet the manor stood silent, a sentinel of the past, its halls forever echoing with the remnants of a horror once lived, a warning etched into the annals of the arcane. Jonah left Ashcliffe with more than he sought, knowledge of the price of eternal life, and a tale that would chill the marrow of those who dared to listen.